Thank you guys for joining me today. Today I'm going to be talking about Peacemaker episodes 1 through 3. On the community tab, I posted a poll asking you guys to vote for what option you wanted me to do in terms of Peacemaker because recording the first two reactions for the first two episodes did not work out the way I wanted it to. So thank you guys for voting. You guys wanted me to do a review of the first three episodes and then do reactions week to week as the episodes are released. Thank you guys so much for voting. It makes it a lot easier on me, takes a lot of pressure off, and yeah, very much appreciate that. So thanks. Now, I haven't done a movie review or a TV review in a really long time. And surprisingly, actually not surprisingly, writing reviews or doing reviews or movie reviews in general, it just feels like every point you've made has been made already. And it feels like you're just treading ground that's already been walked on by 3,000 different people on YouTube. So what I'm going to say probably isn't going to be original. It's not going to be an original take. So I'm going to be very brief. It's just going to be my quick thoughts on episodes 1 through 3. And yeah, overall, a net positive for me. So if you want to leave the video now and just know that I liked it, now's your chance. You're free. Go. However, if you want to stick around and hear more of my thoughts, please stick around. Now, first and foremost, there are going to be spoilers for The Suicide Squad and for Peacemaker episodes 1 through 3. I won't delve into too many details for episodes 1 through 3, but I will talk about spoilers from The Suicide Squad because this show takes directly after the events of The Suicide Squad. So, if you guys don't want to stick around for that, now is your time to leave, okay? I'm weeding out all the people that shouldn't be watching this video now. You're gone? Okay, cool. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with what happened at the end of The Suicide Squad, I mean, why are you still watching? I told you spoilers, man. Or woman, sorry. But anyways, if you still want to stick around, Christopher Smith or Peacemaker gets shot in the throat by Bloodsport, which in any other movie you would think, oh, that character's dead, right? But if you stuck around for the end credit scene, you would see that Peacemaker is very much alive. He's being kept alive and under the watch of Amanda Waller and under Argus. So yeah, there was always plans for this Peacemaker show to be made, and this was James Gunn's pet project, something that he really wanted to do, and this show justifies itself right away. I think that James Gunn's trademark humor and wit is felt throughout this entire first three episodes, and I feel like it's going to carry through to the next 5. I am just loving every single second of it. Now, keep in mind there are things I don't love about the show. It's not perfect by any means, but I am enjoying the hell out of it. I really can't wait for the next episode. It's just like a really good time. If you want to kill 45 minutes and you really like the world that James Gunn kind of established in the Suicide Squad, this feels like a supplementation to that in the best way possible. I'll talk about the things that I don't really like right now just up front, just so I can get the bad out of the way. When it comes to James Gunn's brand of humor, a lot of the times it feels like the stuff that you would joke around with your buddies at the lunch table in middle school. It's adult humor for kids, if that makes any sense. It's like the edgy stuff that you would say as a kid thinking, yeah, I can play at the adults table. And then when you say it at the adults table, all the adults are like, hey, that was really fun, that was really cute, but you gotta get out of here, man. James Gunn's brand of humor is hit or miss for me. It's not always a win, but when it does hit, it really does hit. There is some subtlety to what he does sometimes, but then there are some times where it's not subtle at all. It's just a dick joke right in your face. And you know what? I don't like it when there's a dick joke in my face. I don't like it when there's a dick in my face, okay? But James Gunn will often take that joke and just make it keep going for a little bit longer. It'll overstay its welcome a little bit. And those are the only times where I'm like, okay, like can we move along? But I know that some people do like that kind of humor. It's just not for me personally. So I'm not hating on anyone who does like that kind of stuff, but for me it can be a little bit too Deadpool-y, in where it's just, oh, this joke is still going. Okay, all right, I'll wait for the plot to kick in. I know it sounds like I'm saying like no fun allowed or anything, but there are times where it just feels like it's sort of meandering and it needs to kind of pick up its pace a little bit. That's really the only thing I feel is a detriment to the show, is that the humor sometimes holds it back, even though I feel that the humor is actually what's driving it forward. And a lot of the times it's conflicting for me because sometimes the jokes are what kind of drive the plot forward, because a lot of the dialogue is actually just funny in itself, and a lot of the dialogue is actually expository and it actually helps us understand while being entertained without us feeling like, oh, here's the exposition. So it's hard for me to say that all the humor doesn't work, because sometimes it has more than just one function. Sometimes it's more than just a joke. Sometimes it's actually important for us. And that's what I really like about James Gunn's humor, is that yes, there are going to be jokes in there where I feel like James Gunn was like, yes, we gotta put that joke in there. I don't care if people don't like it. It's what I want. And you know, I respect that. I respect that this is completely James Gunn's vision, that this is something that he wanted to put together. And if it's something he wanted to put together, he's going to put in everything that he wants. And yeah, there's a respect to that, but it doesn't mean that we all have to like it. And for me, it doesn't work all the time, but when it does work, it works really well. Like, that's the thing, it's very hit or miss. Other than that, this show does a really great job of examining the character of Peacemaker. Now, if you're like me and you were a fan of the movie The Suicide Squad that came out last year, you would know that he made a certain decision at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, that was very divisive for a lot of fans. And that decision was, spoilers, if you guys are still here and I told you spoilers, it's your fault, okay? It's your fault. Yeah, he kills Rick Flag, which if you watch the first Suicide Squad movie from 2016, you'd be like, yeah, fuck that guy, who wants him around? But James Gunn did it. He revitalized that character and actually made him interesting and somewhat likable. Actually, I'll say more than somewhat, very likable. He took Joel Kinnaman and actually made people like Joel Kinnaman, which I'm not knocking on Joel Kinnaman. He's a very fine actor, but he had nothing to do in 2016 Suicide Squad. So 2021's Suicide Squad completely revitalized that character, and then they killed him off. Which, in fairness, they killed off a lot of characters that we like Polka Dot Man. Sorry, spoilers, but why are you still here? So yeah, the Suicide Squad, yeah, people died. Big shocker. But a lot of people wanted Rick Flag to stay around because he actually ended up being a character that people really liked and was endeared to. And yeah, I was one of those people. I was like, oh man, I hope they bring him back in some capacity. But the thing is, he still sort of lives on in this show. The regret and the pain and that final line that Rick Flag delivers to Peacemaker is very prevalent in this series. Peacemaker does feel like a joke. Peacemaker to himself, he admits that he feels like a joke. This man is tortured. He's very hollow. He's very lonely. He's a man-child. He doesn't understand what to do with all this rage and to do with all this strength. He's sort of just a baby inside of a meat suit, and I think that's what makes this character very special, and I think that's the reason why James Gunn really wanted to tackle this character. This show justifies him existing and him being alive at the end of that movie. I remember when this show was announced, and I was one of the people that was sort of skeptical on a Peacemaker show just because, yeah, he was a really great addition to the Suicide Squad, but he wasn't my favorite character from that ensemble. And I think each one of them has enough backstory in the Suicide Squad to warrant them getting their own spin-off show. I just never thought it would be Peacemaker that would get it because I felt like, okay, out of all of them, he was great, but if he died just there and then by Bloodsport, I would have been fine, but he didn't. And I was like, okay, so how are they going to do this? How are they going to win us people over who are just like kind of half and half on Peacemaker? And in the first episode, they managed to do an amazing job of making us feel for this guy. Now in this series, Robert Patrick plays Peacemaker's father, and you understand exactly why Peacemaker is the way he is. There is just this dynamic between the two where, you know, Robert Patrick's character doesn't really have to say much in order to get underneath Peacemaker's skin, and Peacemaker, despite being abused his entire life, still vies for his father's attention and feels like he'll never be as good or good enough for his father's approval. Now, we've seen this dynamic in other stories and in other movies or books or whatever, but the reason why it feels a little bit different in this series is that these trademark characteristics of these characters we've seen in other stories are dialed up to 11. Not only is his father just a dick, but he's a racist dick, and like not even ashamed about it at all. Robert Patrick in this unabashedly plays a white supremacist, and that's one of the things about the show that I really like. Not because he's a white supremacist, for very obvious reasons that doesn't bring me joy at all, but it's because in order to endear us to the character of Peacemaker, who made really bad decisions in the movie The Suicide Squad, we have to understand why we should empathize with this character, and the only way we can really empathize with this character is if his dad is an even bigger asshole than he is. James Gunn finds a way to make these characters just a shred bit empathetic, just because we can find one way to kind of enter into that character. And I heard this quote somewhere and I don't know where it is, and I don't even know if I'm directly quoting it, but if you can find the most irredeemable, most detestable character and then find a little shred of empathy for them just by giving them just a little bit of backstory or at least one traumatic experience, then that's an access point for us as viewers to sort of understand this character and grow with them, and it makes their arc a lot more satisfying at the end. And I think that's what they were building up here. I really like this show for what it sets up for the character, and it shows that the environment that Peacemaker grew up in, he didn't really have a chance to become anything else but a very conflicted villain. Even though he deems himself a hero, he really does have villainous qualities about him. I also want to give a lot of credit to the rest of the ensemble, which are the rest of the crew members of Project Butterfly, or the Argus team that is tasked to keep Peacemaker. And the first person I want to mention is Amelia Harcourt, which is played by Jennifer Holland. I think she's really fantastic in the show. She is such a badass, and I love the dynamic between her and John Cena. I think they have really great chemistry against each other, and yeah, that's all I gotta say about them two. I think Danielle Brooks is also really excellent in this, as well as Chukwudi Iwuji, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm definitely butchering that, but he is hilarious in this. He plays sort of like Captain Holt of the team, and he's sort of this unfeeling person who's sort of trying to discover his empathy and his feelings for anything. Steve Agee also returns from the Suicide Squad in this, and he's just funny as well. I mean, the guy's a comedian. He just naturally bounces off of John Cena's character, as well as, who else am I missing? Oh yeah, Vigilante. I just want to talk about Freddie Stroma as Vigilante, which is probably one of the most lucky recastings that we've ever had. It's like up there with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, where originally they had a different actor in mind for Wolverine, and then Hugh Jackman came and slayed that character. Freddie Stroma as Vigilante is just one of those castings where I'm like, I can't imagine anyone else playing this ridiculous Deadpool-esque character. And I say Deadpool-esque because he really does feel like he is DC's Deadpool. Not that the comic character was written to be like DC's Deadpool, but I feel like the way that he sort of embodies this character does have Deadpool-isms, in that he just has this cold, unfeeling nature, but also this humor and brightness to his character. He's so cheery about killing people, and he just kind of justifies what he does as heroism, but really he's willing to kill anyone for any crime that they commit. Even if you're jaywalking or doing graffiti, he will kill you. And the glee that he feels is just felt throughout the screen, and I really like that character. He's just so demented, and he can't really understand what he's doing is wrong, and he's so cheerful and hilarious. Like, the guy is so funny. He has such a presence. I guess the character I could compare him to is Todd from Breaking Bad. He's sort of like Todd, where he's this unfeeling character that doesn't understand what he's doing is wrong, and he sort of justifies it in his own, meticulous and twisted way. And yeah, I just really enjoy that character a lot. And I didn't even realize that this character is played by an actor who showed up in one of the Harry Potter films. I didn't even know that the guy wasn't American, to be honest. And looking back, I'm like, yeah, maybe the accent is a little bit crazy. It doesn't sound too American, but I just thought the character was goofy in general. So if he's using a goofy American accent or doing a goofy American accent, it's very forgivable. But yes, overall, the plot is very simple. They are tasked to go find these Project Butterflies, and there are some really cool action sequences that we get. I really like the sequence between him and the naked lady in the first episode. I thought that was really funny, as well as really well choreographed. And I just love when you see two characters that are just wrecking shop. They're like tearing the set apart, and they're just throwing each other into walls and stuff like. I don't know. I like the visceral nature of those kinds of fights. I always hate when fights, you see them fighting and doing all these stunts and things, but there's nothing being broken around them. They're keeping everything really clean. I'm just like, why? Like, if you're really fighting to the death, why wouldn't you break some stuff along the way? I like that even in the fight choreography, there's some humor injected in there, and it just always feels like James Gunn is behind the camera. And that's the thing I really respect about the series, is that it really does feel like it's his vision throughout. It feels like he was always a part of the process. And with a lot of and I'm not knocking on Marvel, because I do love Marvel properties, and I love MCU movies, and I love MCU TV shows, and etc. But I am saying that this feels like that this was him at the helm at all times. And a lot of the MCU movies feels like, the director was there for certain sequences or scenes, and then, they went to get coffee for like 5 hours, and they came back, they're like, all right, what do you want me to shoot now? It always feels like there are certain scenes that are disconnected from the director's vision. It feels like someone else was handed that direction and saying like, here's the second unit director, he's going to be doing all of this, don't even worry about it. I don't know, John Watts or Peyton Reed or whatever, we'll take care of this, and you can come back for the dramatic stuff, or you can come back for this scene that you really want to do. But it never feels like the director had his hands on the entire movie, if that makes any sense. And that in no way is me disrespecting the director or the director's talents for those movies. It just doesn't always feel like it's them totally. You know what I mean? But this specifically, and the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, always felt like James Gunn had the respect from, the executives at Marvel or the executives at DC to kind of just do what he wanted to do. And that's what I really like about this. And I think another thing that I really value about James Gunn is his respect for the characters. The reason why these characters are so fun and new is because they are plucked out of obscurity. And the thing that I like about James Gunn is that he feels like a guy who likes to take characters that feel like broken toys and not necessarily mending them, but showing us, the viewers, why they're valuable. He sees the opportunity and he sees the value in something that seems almost disposable. And that's the reason why Guardians works so well. That's the reason why the Suicide Squad works so well. Well, it wasn't received well financially, but it works so well with audience members, is that it feels like he's watching something and making something for us, for people that, not necessarily feel perfect all the time. And I think that's one of the things that makes his characters a lot more interesting, is that, you watch MCU movies, you watch comic book movies all the time, and mostly these characters are flawed. Sure, there are some minor flaws, but they're not necessarily imperfect people. They're not necessarily broken to a degree that almost feels like they are unsalvageable. But James Gunn takes characters that seem like, you know, in any other world or in any other person's hands, they would just be, you know, B characters, or they would be disposed of within the first act, but he makes them main characters. And I think that's what really sticks with us, the audience members, is that he gives an identity to characters that you would see in the background in any other Batman movie. And that's what I really like, man. James Gunn just really has a respect for character, and also for a respect for his actors. I think that John Cena in the role of Peacemaker is perfect because I think James Gunn knew that he could do it. He plays to John Cena's strengths, which is humor, and that's something he did with Dave Bautista as well, playing Drax. Also, in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Drax also had a lot of heart, and there were moments between him and Rocket that really shined through, and you saw moments of vulnerability there. And that's what he does really well with John Cena as well. He's not in line to get the next Academy Award nomination or anything like that, but he does have really great value on screen as someone who is a comedic performer, as well as being able to show vulnerability, not necessarily crying or doing anything dramatic, but showing subtle moments where there's an opportunity there to just sort of sit on the character and just see that on his face he's showing some regret or showing some kind of sadness. I think that's really great. I think that James Gunn just knows how to play to actors' strengths, and I think that's because he has the communication with them, unlike Joss Whedon apparently, and he's able to communicate with his actors what they want to do for this character, and he's able to see what they can bring to screen that they don't think they can do themselves, and he sees the best in everything. And I think that's what I really like about this filmmaker. Like, that's why I'm always going to be in line to watch whatever he puts out, because I just feel like there's just going to be a good time on screen. Whether it's behind the scenes or on the screen, you know that the people making it had a good time. And I think that's what really comes off of this show, is that you're watching it and you're like, these guys probably had a really great time. They probably got a beer afterwards and talked about their day of shooting, and it was probably a blast. Like, I just get that vibe off of it. Watching the show feels like you're watching a show with your friends, and it also feels like a show that you're watching of your friends. And I think that's just something that James Gunn knows how to do, and it's really hard to get that tangible feeling on screen and to receive that as an audience member, and it's very rare that we get those opportunities. And I think that Peacemaker does hit those notes, even though the humor doesn't work for me all the time. So yeah, that's pretty much all I'll say about episodes 1 through 3. I actually spoke a lot more about the show than I wanted to, and I also didn't get to touch on a lot of the things I wanted to touch on, but if I did, this video would be way too long. This show is a lot of fun. I really encourage you guys to watch it. It might not be your cup of tea. I am going to say, if you didn't like the Suicide Squad, you're probably not going to like this show at all, because it's basically just that show extended out for an 8-episode series. But if you are a huge fan of the Suicide Squad, then you are going to love this. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and to also subscribe if you haven't, because I think like 17% of you guys are actually subscribed to this channel, and like the rest of you guys are not. And I'm not saying that's not cool, but it would really mean a lot to me if you did subscribe. So thank you so much for that. So yes guys, thank you so much for watching. Look forward to more videos coming out soon. I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope that you guys are staying happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. I just recently got my booster shot and my flu shot in both arms, and they are starting to wear out on me. So I'm going to cut this video off pretty soon. But thanks guys. I really do appreciate you guys coming around again, and I hope you're doing well. And as always guys, I will see you later.